Hi, I'm Marilyn San Clemente of Stamp with Marilyn, and today I'm going to show you some beautiful shutter cards. So here's a shutter card. Here's one. That's actually the one that I made Friday night. And this is one that I made last week. You may recognize it because it was out on my website a couple of times. And this one uses the Ornate Garden and the Daisy stamp set with the two Daisy stamps, the small and the medium Daisy stamps. And then I used a couple of sentiments with the So Sweetly dies to do the labels there. Okay, and this one uses the Christmas is Gleaming designer paper, and I used the Christmas Gleaming ornaments set and colored the ornaments, colored in the holly, and I fussy cut the holly. So let's get started making our card today. Okay, so for this one I was going to use the Gilded Autumn paper, which I absolutely love, which is this beautiful fall paper, and it's embossed with copper and gold throughout. And there's a paper assortment, a metallic paper assortment, the brushed metallic papers, and it has a little bit of gold, it has a little bit of copper, and some other colors. But this is some of the paper. And each side has an embossed side, and then it also has a designer side. And I love that stripe. And this is really pretty with the wheat, and this one I also love with the leaves and the acorns. And here's the last design. It's this green kind of a wheat design, and then it has a herringbone on the back. So that's the Gilded Autumn paper. So that's the paper that I'm going to use today, and I have pre-cut pieces for the different layers that are part of this card, which is what you see here. What I recommend with these cards is stamping your images and everything that you want to use to decorate the card first. And so those are the types of things that I stamped, and I don't know if I will end up using all those images or not. But first, let me show you the fun part, and that is cutting everything and making the card base. So the first thing that we're going to do is we have a 12 by 12 sheet, and this is the Cajun Craze, which goes really well with the Gilded Autumn designer paper. And I'm going to cut this to 5.5. There we go. So you can actually make two cards out of one piece of paper if you wanted to. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my cutter so that you can see everything that I'm doing. I'm putting the arm out this way, so hopefully you can see everything that I'm doing. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to score this at 4 inches and 8 inches. So I want to push my cutting blade out of the way, and I'm going to score at 4 inches. Oops, and this is not flat. There we go. And 8 inches. Okay. And then what I'm going to do, I don't know if you can see those score lines or not. Bend those just a little bit so you can see. And we're going to move this down to the 2-inch line. And we want to score in 1.5 inches this way and 1.5 inches this way. So I have my cutting blade down on the bottom. So on the bottom, because I know that this is 5.5, I want to score in 1.5 inches. So I'm going to score to the 4-inch mark. And then here, I'm going to score down to the 1.5 inch mark, which is on the right side. There's a ruler on the top of this piece, and actually it helps. I was using a lighter piece of cardstock earlier, and it was very, very hard to see the ruler, but with this darker color with the Cajun Craze, it's actually a little bit easier to see the ruler. So, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my piece, and I'm going to do the same thing again on the other end. So I'm going to line that up at 2 inches. I'm going to score down 1.5 inches, and then I'm going to score up 1.5 inches on the other end. So what you have is your card is scored at 4 inches and at 8 inches. And then you've got 2 score marks at 2 inches from this end and 2 score marks at 2 inches from this end. And now what we're going to do to make this fold, measure our card at 1.5 inches, which on the new Stampin' Up! Cutter is the end of this white layer right here. This is 1 1/4, so this is 1.5. So I'm going to move my card out to that edge. And you want to cut from that first score line to that last score line. So you're going to cut through the 4-inch mark and the 8-inch mark, and cut from that first score line to the last score line at 1.5 inches in. So I'm going to move this and cut down like that. Okay. And then I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to do the same thing again. So I'm going to set that at 1.5, and I'm going to cut from that score line there up to this score line. Okay, so your piece is then going to look like this. Okay, and now the fun. The fun begins. To fold this piece, let me go back to here. You have 2 kind of T's right here. There's 1 T right here at the back of the card and 1 T at the beginning of the card. So what we're going to do is I'm going to fold the center piece. I'm going to fold this out, and that will be that T, that first T at the beginning of the card. And I'm going to fold this piece in. So there's your 1/2 inch score line. Okay, and then we're going to fold this piece in and this piece out. So it's going to fold like this. It will make sense in a minute, and we're going to fold this piece out. So these lines that we cut through, you're going to do the opposite with the shorter line. So I have my T here. I'm going to fold that. There we go. Like that. And I almost have it here. And then we're going to fold this one out because this one is going in. So when you look at this again, okay, this is the T coming out. So we're folding this part out. So this one's going to go in like that. And then this one's going to go in for that T. So this one is going to come out. So your card is going to look like this. And what you might want to do at that point is to take a bone folder, and I'm not sure where mine is. So when I don't have a bone folder, what I do is I use a pencil or pen, and you just go over that, and you just want to crease those lines. So that's how you fold your card. There we go. And there's our card base. So now the fun part. Okay, so this is our card all folded. And what I would recommend doing is creating a pattern. So keep this and maybe cut another one. And because you're using 2 pieces or 1 piece of 5.5 inch by 12 inch, you can get 2 card bases out of 1 piece of 12-inch paper. So I would recommend making a pattern for that. And what I've suggested here is I've just taken 2 different colors of cardstock, and I wanted to use something very bright so that you can see how this will work. So for the mat, this card is 5.5 by 4 inches to this fold. So we want the mat to be 5 1/4 by 3 3/4 inches. So if this was a full card front, forget that we have those cuts there, then it would look like this. And this isn't actually the color that I'm going to use for the mats. I'm just putting this together like this to show you how to make the pattern. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over, for this one, we're going to go over 1 3/4 inches because this piece is 2 inches. I'm just going to put this here. That would be easier for me. And we're going to go over 1 3/4 inches. and then we're going to go down 1.5 on this side. And so here's my cutting blade. And what I'm going to do is just cut down from that little mark. There we go. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take that 1.5 inch mark and we're going to make that down here. Okay, and then we're going to go up 1.5 inches, which would be right here. And actually, so then I can move this over. Okay, and then I can cut up here. Okay, and then this should fit. And it does. Yay! There we go. There's our mat. So our mat is over 1 3/4 inches to here, and then 1.5 inches down. So the same on the bottom. So now for the layer, for the DSP, we're going to go over 1.5 inches and mark that. And we're going to go down 1.5 inches and mark that. And we're going to cut. And while I've got my cutter here, I'm going to mark this at 1.5 and cut up a little bit. Okay. And now I'm going to cut over. And again, this is just my pattern that I'm going to use to cut up my designer paper. Okay. And now, oops, that's what I didn't do. I didn't mark up 1.5 from the bottom, which would be right here. Okay. Okay, great. So there is my pattern for the designer paper. So I'm going to label this piece DSP, and you're going to go over 1.5 inches and you go down 1.5 inches. And that gives you what you need. There we go. To make a really nice mat with the designer paper. So the next thing we have to do is cut the mat and cut the designer paper. So I've put my pattern aside, and what I want to do now is I want the mat to be this. I'm sorry, I want the designer paper to be that, and I want my mat, oops, to be this brushed copper, which I love. So I'm going to take this, and that's for the mat. I'm going to set that aside for a second, and I'm going to use this for the designer paper. So I'm going to set this here, and I'm actually just going to cut around this like I would if it was a sewing pattern. And then what you want to make sure is, because these two T's are opposite of each other, this one is going this way, this one's going this way, is you want to make sure that you flip this when you cut the second piece for that T. So let's do this part first. This is the tricky part. And once we get past this point, this card is actually really easy to do. There we go. And what I found when I taught this class on Friday night is everybody does math a different way and interpreted things a different way. So it's always challenging doing these classes via Zoom, but that's what we have right now because of COVID. So now I want to make sure that I'm doing a piece this way. Okay, so I'm just going to cut along here. As I mentioned, I'm not really good at cutting freehand, but there we go. Okay. So now I have my 2 T's for each side. And my mat is going to be the copper. Whoops. And I cut that out of the purple. And there's my first piece of copper. So this is going to look like this. That's going upside down, so I want this one on here. Like that. So now that we've cut our mats and we have used our patterns to cut our designer paper and our copper, I'm going to put my layers together. And we've got that on. Okay. Okay, and here's our second piece. Yay! Oh, I love this paper. Okay, so there is the base of our card with the first 2 pieces of designer paper. So now what I have done is I have cut little pieces of copper, and there's my layers for these long pieces. And, whoops, I'm missing a piece. Where did that go? I'm missing a piece for this one. Okay. I might have to find another piece of copper. We'll fix that in a minute. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put these pieces together. So I've got the 2 narrow pieces that go here and here, and then I've got the 4 little squares that go there, and then there is one more piece that goes here, and I just need to cut a piece of copper for that. So I've given the measurements. Those are in the PDF that's attached, and let me get this thing decorated. What I did is I mentioned before I pre-cut a whole bunch of different ideas that I had for this, and I have a gate from Gracie's Garden. I have The Life is Beautiful. I have Plant Kindness and Harvest Love, which I love. Golden Leaves, Chilly Air, Everywhere. Somewhere I wanted to find a Happy Thanksgiving, and I didn't find one, but I just have to look a little bit further or a little bit deeper. I cut a couple of fences that were part of that harvest set, and I cut the wheelbarrow, which I really like, and some hay of flowers for the wheelbarrow, and then some of this. So we'll see. And then what I wanted to do, and I stamped this, but I haven't figured out how to put this on yet, is I think I might put this like this. I'd like to put the tree, so I'm thinking if I silhouette the tree here, but it may be too big, so I don't know. We're going to try that and see, because that's one of those things you just kind of have to try. And so what I'm doing is I'm silhouetting the tree. Actually, I could fit that like that. And then I could put the Life is Beautiful across the bottom or across the middle like that. Okay, and then what happens when you open that? Actually, that would work. And then I can put, okay, I want to put the flowers on the wagon. So maybe that goes here. And add the flowers to that. The stock would go really good there. And then actually I could put the pumpkins there. And what I'm thinking is this could go here. Golden leaves, chilly air, autumn beauty everywhere. And I love this. Plant kindness, harvest love. You know what? I think I want to do this. Plant kindness, harvest love. Here. Life is beautiful. Or maybe life is beautiful up here. The wagon here. Yeah, I think that will work. Okay, and not sure where I'm going to put the pumpkins. Yeah, put the pumpkins down here. Or over here. Okay. Okay, so let's put this together. So as I was just saying, so I trimmed the tree down a little bit more to get a little bit more room out of that. And the tree reminds me a bit of Sheltering Tree, which we had a few years ago. And I loved. So I'm going to put this all together, and then I will take a picture for you and bring it back. So it looks like I didn't use the gate from Gracie's Garden, but what I might do is use the fence here and put the pumpkin next to that. I think I will. So I will be back again, and I will give you a final picture of what we've done. Thank you for stopping by today and checking out my shutter cards. I hope you've enjoyed watching my video and making your own shutter card. When you're finished, take a picture and post it out to my Facebook page, Stamp with Marilyn. Have a great day and happy stamping!